But then it hits me. A literal wave hits me. So naturally, I start freaking out. Like, is this dude trying to hit me? Literally, what is happening right now? We're on a cliff. We're at a cliff lookout. And that's when it happens. I crash. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Guess where I am, podcast listeners? Wait, sorry. I'm being interrupted. Right. Well, this just in. You're being summoned. For court, that is. I like witchy stuff, but I'm not summoning the devil or anything. Welcome back to Thrills and Spills. This is now the 4th official Thrills and Spills of Season 2, and I truly do hope y'all are enjoying these shorter spill sessions. I mean, I love to yap. I'm sure y'all are well aware of that by now. I mean, after spending so much time traveling, I have lots of stories to tell, and that's why we're here, for me to share that with you, our lovely listeners. But I totally get it. Not everybody has the time for an hour-long episode, or can even stay tuned in and present for an hour. I mean, I know my attention span has decreased significantly these past few years. Thank you, TikTok. So I'm hoping these shorter episodes are more enticing for you to listen to during your days, doing whatever you like to do, you know, out grocery shopping and your go-to call list all don't answer you. I'm here for you. Today's Thrills and Spills is going to be a bit different of a layout than my first Thrills and Spills, and even the most recent Thrills and Spills from co-host Louise. As you can tell, if you look at the timestamp of the episode, I said it was going to be 30 minutes. It was 20 minutes and 17 seconds. I talk fast. Even on my re-record, I talked too fast. So this is going to be a combination of everything, because like I said before, you can take the girl out of New York, but you can't take New York out of the girl. Okay? This court case is going to be many different stories, all relating back, for the most part, to the same crime. It could be a stretch. You let me know. I don't know. I'm just here to yap, okay? But for the most part, all these stories take place on the beautiful, lovely, majestic, magnetic island, where there are more koalas than residents, human residents. But we hop around a bit to a few different locations. Like the nomad I am, I can't stay put for too long. I will also admit that the plan for this episode was going to be a completely different story. But I realized I have a crazy of enough digital footprint that I really didn't need to be going that extra mile. So all I will say is, if you're listening, Caitlin, Sophia, and Georgia, New Year's Eve. That's all I'll say. You know. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. That's the gravel, whatever it's called. Knock, knock. I am your judge, Judge Koke. And for the most part, I'm also the defendant, the plaintiff, and the witness, once again. Let's set the scene. Remember that 6-week backpacking trip that I got into, my first Thrills and Spills, where Joe and I traveled around Hawaii, Japan, the Philippines, and Australia? Well, we're back. But this time we're at the wee end of our trip, literally our last stop before we drop off the van in Cairns. Let's rewind back to June 2024. It's the night of the 3rd, and we get into Townsville. We plan for that next morning, the morning of the 4th, to head over to Magnetic Island. That next morning, we start our day with a nice sunrise run by the water, which I will say was one of my favorite runs we did that entire trip. Then we head over to the port because, you guessed it, Magnetic Island is an island. We had to take a ferry to get there. As we booked accommodation for Magnetic Island and didn't need the camper / didn't want to pay an insane amount of money to bring it over to Magnetic Island, we park our van in the ferry lot. There was this deal that Joe got from the travel agency he worked at that included a 2-night stay at a hostel on Magnetic Island, 2 drink vouchers, 2 breakfast vouchers, and a round-trip ferry ride. I want to say it had like the word cheap in it. Maybe it was like a cheap traveler's deal, something along those lines, but it definitely had the word cheap in it. And yes, this is foreshadowing. Okay? Keep that in mind. Classic backpacker's mistake. Booking something that cheap that includes that many benefits. If it sounds too good to be true, most of the time it is. I will say it was a good deal, but I'm getting ahead of myself, so you can make that decision for yourself if you would do this deal again. So like I said, we drop our van in the ferry lot and we pack the essentials that we need for the next 2 days on the island. But realistically, this is practically everything we packed for our 6-week trip anyways. We end up having to wait in the waiting room for about an hour or two because we missed the ferry by 2 minutes. Rip. But the parking lot was massive and we did park in the farthest possible spot we could have. The ferry eventually pulls up and people start queuing. And I can't believe I'm actually saying the word queue now. And for all my Americans, that means getting in line. I hate saying it, but I can't get rid of it at this point, okay? Thanks, Joe. You could blame him. I sound like a poser saying it, honestly. That does, however, give me an idea for a future episode. Bringing back the gua glossary. Okay, season 1.
Gua.
Gua, because it's not the I. Gua. It does sound some type of call. If we're ever in like Lost, that's our new call. We'll go gua, gua. Okay, yeah, so that's it for the gua glossary.
Anywho, tangent by myself, what else would we expect? But we get in line, and even though we are the first to show up, we're practically the last to get onto the ferry because everybody else got in line before the ferry doors even opened. Classic. The ferry is quite small. It's almost like a small yacht size. The downstairs, fully inside. The top half was half inside, half outside. And for some reason, if you had any sort of luggage with you, you had to go sit on the top deck because you had to strap your luggage to the railings of this boat. Okay, so we strap our backpack and our small grocery bag that we had, and we sit in the outside section. I mean, it was a pretty nice day out. We thought we might as well get some nice sun on us and the breeze on this 20-30 minute ride that it'll take to get over to Magnetic Island. But the sun was very deceiving because it was in fact not nice out. The second we start moving and pull away from the port, we realize how choppy the waves are. I'm not sure if the ferry was going slower than normal to compensate for the waves, but it felt like a lot longer than 30 minutes. And I'm starting to feel seasick, which really never happens to me, especially growing up on Long Island and going on a boat every other weekend. But then it hits me. A literal wave hits me. The wave got so big that I wasn't just like casually sprayed with some ocean water. I was fully drenched. And I turn around to Joe, he's soaked. I look around, nearly everybody else around us completely dry. We just happened to choose the worst seats. But that's what I get for wanting to be on the end seats and take pretty pictures and videos. Anyways, you wanna know what else got hit with the wave? Our bags. Right, because what genius that works for this ferry company decided that it would be a great idea to strap luggage to the outside railing of the ferry. I don't know, but the waves were too choppy for me to want to go over and grab the bags. I mean, they're literally tied down. They're soaked, but they're tied down, and we just waited till we got off at that point to see how bad they actually got. This all happened within the first few minutes of being on the boat too. So we sit and we wait and we stay drenched because the sun really wasn't drying us off at all. And what were we supposed to do? Go to our drenched bags and change into clothes that were probably also drenched just for the sake of changing? I don't know, it feels a bit extra to me, but we finally make it over to Magnetic Island, and thankfully we are some of the first to get off. I was so over it. I was New York pushing my way through that crowd. We quickly check our bags and realize that for the most part, everything is pretty dry. The only thing that's drenched is us. To get to the hostel we booked, we could either walk a mile and a half or take a 20-minute $1 bus ride. Honestly, any other day that we're not drenched, seasick, and carrying 40 pounds of clothes in our backpack, we'd walk. We're walkers. But today's not that day, so we take the bus. It was cheap anyways, and we hop on, we head over to the hostel. Joe's actually been to Magnetic Island before. He visited right before our 6-week backpacking trip started when he was making his way down the coast. He met a friend on his dive course that he hitched a ride with, and they stopped there for a night. So he kind of knew his way around, and I was playing up the classic passenger princess, letting him just lead me around. I wasn't really paying too much attention to where we're going. So let's keep that in mind for later down the line, why don't we? We get to the hostel, we check in, and we put our bags in the luggage room. We then sit by the water and plan what we're going to do for the next 2 days. Like I said, Joe's been to Magnetic Island before, and being a classic guy like he is, him and his friend rented electric bikes to zip around the island on last time they were here. I feel like calling them bikes is downplaying what they were a lot. They really felt like electric motorcycles. They were bikes without the gears and the push pedals. Like, these things zipped about. So of course, this was the first thing that Joe wanted to do with me while on Magnetic Island. So we head over to the shop and we rent 2 electric bikes for the afternoon. We head off from this guy's driveway around noon, and we only have until 5 to bring the bikes back before he closes. So we only have a few hours to do a whole lap of the island and see everything and anything we can. For some reason, I thought I've ridden one of these before, and I was so confident in myself that I could ride them on the windy roads of Magnetic Island. But I was getting so flustered by the fact that we had a ride on the road and not on the sidewalk that I forgot everything the guy told me before we left. Brakes? I don't know her. Plus, Joe has recently rode one of these, so he's loving every single second, and he was so excited to show me around the island and was zooming around on max speed. After about 5 whole minutes on the bikes, some dude in a truck behind me starts honking. I mean, I was going slightly slower than the speed limit, and I guess slightly slower than people typically go on these bikes, but we were just going up a hill, so once we get to a section that I'm able to pull over, I pull over. The guy in the truck zips past me, but another car starts pulling up right behind me. And mind you, I'm still trying to pull out of the way for cars. So you can imagine how confused I am when this car is following me up this tiny path to the lookout section. Like, I'm just trying to catch my breath. You have plenty of space to go around me. What are you doing? So naturally, I start freaking out. Like, is this dude trying to hit me? Literally, what is happening right now? Like, is he trying to run? Like, we're on a cliff. We're at a cliff lookout. And that's when it happens. I crash. I barely attempted to hit the brakes, I'll be fully honest. What I did was just try hopping off the bike while it was moving. I'm pretty sure that was like one of the number 1 things the guy said not to do. But I don't know, it just made sense at the time, okay? Like, you caught the part where I said that this was on a cliff. I'm not a fan of cliffs. But somehow I make it slightly off the bike and it keeps moving and it hits the railing of the cliff. Thankfully, it didn't hit another car, but I totally broke the rear view mirror of it. Yeah. All within 10 minutes of having this bike. And I break off a piece of it. Comedic looking back at it, but I was freaking out at the moment. I was wearing my favorite pair of jorts and I got a nice big old scratch down the side of my leg. And it even ripped a bit of my shorts, which is funny because I only just brought the jorts to get stitched up this week, a whole year later. Anyways, we're on top of this hill at this lookout. I'm freaking out over breaking this bike. and still panicking after getting honked at and thinking a car was intentionally trying to hit me. Because in my defense, he didn't pull up the normal way to park, he was pulling up so strange behind me. Joe ends up calling the owner of the bikes and says that it's no drama and that it happens all the time and it's only $20 or something cheap like that to fix it. So we head back to swap them out because it's not really safe to ride them without this mirror. At this point, I'm still pretty freaked out about crashing the bike, so I'm not sure that I even want to continue riding them for the afternoon. But I give myself the 10 minutes of riding back to make that decision. I end up pulling myself together, and from a pep talk from both Joe and the shop owner, I feel confident this time, for real, that I can ride these bikes the rest of the afternoon. So for the second time, we head off. We see some beautiful sights this afternoon, and we have a great time exploring together and him showing me around the island. And right before we head back to drop off the bikes around the corner, we stop off at this helicopter landing strip point. This spot in particular is known for having a bunch of rock wallabies about, and for all you listening who don't know what rock wallabies are, they're essentially smaller kangaroos. They're more friendly to humans, and hence its name tend to live in rockier areas. And across the street from this landing strip, which also happens to be right next to the bike shop, was a grocery store. So we head in and we buy 2 giant carrots because that's what you do and that's what they can eat. But unlike ducks, because y'all better not be buying bread for ducks. It's 2025, okay? Bread is not good for ducks. Do some research. Immediately once we walk over to this rocky part of the walking path next to the landing strip, we're surrounded by 30 or so rock wallabies. And they're so cute, they're so friendly, they're so happy looking. It was so tough for me to not just pick them up and give it a cuddle. However, these rock wallabies are clearly adept to knowing that when they see humans, it equals carrot time. Because we're swarmed, and there Joe and I are standing with 1 giant carrot each and 30 rock wallabies. How are we supposed to feed it to them? We can't just hand it out because then all 30 of them are going to attack us. So naturally, I take a bite and then I spit it out. I was mother naturing them. They were my children for 20 minutes. I was trying to make this carrot last for all of them and spread the wealth equally. I wasn't just going to give it to the first big boss that rocked up to me. No, I'm giving them to the smaller little babies in the back. Now, as I'm saying this part of the story, I'm realizing that it doesn't fully fit into this court case, but it happened right after I crashed my bike, so I thought I might as well include it because it was a core memory from this trip. That night, we redeem our free drink card, and for some reason, I felt the strong urge for Joe to have a root beer float for the first time. I mean, we did have some Bundaberg root beer in the fridge, so we take a late night adventure on an electric scooter and head to the grocery store. We're cheap backpackers, so we share a scooter. Me in front, Joe in the back. It's pitch black, and we barely know where we're going. The sidewalk isn't super flat, and we're low-key super exhausted from the day, but I'm determined to get this vegan vanilla ice cream for Joe. You'd think that me crashing an electric bike earlier in the day would cause me to be more safe with electric transportation, but no. But it's okay because we make it to the shop and back within 20 minutes. We're $15 short from the scooter, but we got the vegan vanilla ice cream in hand. You'd think that after crashing an electric bike in the morning, I'd be a little bit more careful with electric transportation, but no. But it's okay because we make it back within 20 minutes. We're only $15 short, but we have a tub of vegan vanilla ice cream. That part of the story is also pretty irrelevant, but I feel like it still sets the scene a little bit for day 1 of Magnetic Island. This is the court case of... No, I actually still don't know what I would call this court case. Anyways, we plan to wake up super early the next morning to go on a sunrise hike so we can see some koalas in their natural habitat. So we wake up, all standy. We're in a 6-bunk dorm, but we only had 2 roommates. One's already gone and one's awake. So I hop down from the top bunk to Joe's bunk, grab my clothes from the backpack off the floor, toss them onto the bed to lay out to see what I want to wear for the day. And all of a sudden, Joe's beautiful white sheets become speckled. Thousands upon thousands of ants cover his bed immediately. They were all up in my pants that I tossed on the bed. So gross to think about. I literally have goosebumps thinking about this because it's so gross. I scream, naturally, but thank goodness the other roommate was awake because, ew. We then managed to get all of the ants off of his bed and then realized the backpack with everything we have is also covered in ants. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Nasty. Disgusting. Disgusting. Nasty. So we take the bag outside of the room and take everything out. We start shaking and hanging everything we have on the balcony. I've literally never seen that many ants in one place at one time. Still to this day, we're not sure why they were so attracted to the bag, but we didn't have any food in it, so it's like there really should have been no need for them to be that attracted to us and bombard us like that. 20 minutes later, we're ant-free. All of our clothes are still outside for the world to see and to take, but we still head out over to the hike. Somehow we managed to make it up for sunrise, and along the way we passed 7 koalas. It's still pretty early in the day where they're still in their sleeping spots and close to the hiking trail. We were the first people to make it up the trail that day, so it was a bit harder for us to spot them in the trees. Normally when others are in front of you, they'll point out koalas that are hidden in the trees that either them or the people before them found. But no, it's just me and my horrible vision, Joe's 20/20 vision, playing Where's Waldo in real life. When we get back to the hostel, the cafe is open and we could finally use our free breakfast vouchers that we were given. We get up, we order, to only realize that this free breakfast that they advertised is really only a $12 off breakfast voucher, and the only thing under $12 was a bowl of cereal. Be so for real right now. You're telling me I didn't bring all of the ingredients to the island to bring my favorite breakfast? Avocado toast? Anyways, we order what we wanted to order, and then we go enjoy breakfast by the water. This is probably a good spot to wrap up this part of the story when Joe and I are on Magnetic Island and skip to the part where I go back to Magnetic Island and get this same damn cheap backpackers deal. My friend David from college has been in Australia for a few months now working on his dive master certification. And our friend Kendall flew out to Australia to see us as David and I were living in the same city in Australia. 2-for-1 deal if you ask me. Anyway, so I thought it would be fun to get David out of Cairns as he started working the second he landed. And I wanted him to explore and actually have that Aussie experience. So we rented a car and I brought them all down to Townsville. I mean, it was only a 4-hour drive and I love a road trip, so why not? I mean, maybe because I didn't have the best experience the month prior. Maybe I should have picked a different excursion. But no, I chose to go back. Willingly and surprisingly. I was determined to get David and Kendall their full quintessential Australian experience, to see koalas and rock wallabies up close in their natural habitat. Let me refresh y'all's memory to the first time I was on Magnetic Island, and I was passenger princessing real hard and letting Joe guide and direct me because he knew where he was going. So when I get back to the island, everything looks so familiar, yet I have no clue where anything is. We make our way over to the hostel and we end up getting put in a room that was way nicer. Oh my god. That scared the fuck out of me. Joe scared the bejesus out of me with this call. Oh my god. But let's get back into it. We make our way over to the hostel and we get a much nicer room than the one that Joe and I had. This one is like one of those A-frame tiny houses and it's overlooking the water. It was so cute. but I couldn't sit up in my bunk without hitting my head on the top of the frame, ceiling, whatever it's called. Anyways, when we're walking around this first day, we see a giant sign for a local Thai restaurant, but we bank that knowledge because we have a free drink voucher for that night, and there's a very specific time that you pick up these free drinks. It's not like you just go up to the bar and be like, give me a free drink. No, they just like have them out. They're like, give me your card. Boom. And then if you miss that 5-minute time period, they're gone. So we make sure we're there. It was also some sort of game night going on. I don't remember if it was trivia, karaoke, or something of the sorts, but we didn't want to miss it. That next morning, we planned to do the same hike that Joe and I did. And we wake up bright and early, crack of dawn. Kendall and I go, get ready in the girls' bathroom. And David wanted to sleep in a little bit while we're taking our time getting ready. He just wanted to roll out of bed, as most guys can do. But after a few tries and attempts of waking him up, nothing. Bestie was exhausted and was catching up on sleep from all the sleep he wasn't getting while on the boat doing his dive certification. So Kendall and I head over to the bus stop and head up to the hike. 10 minutes later, ring ring, we got a call from David saying he's ready and he's been waiting for us outside. He must have mixed up the timing or something in his sleep-deprived state, because at that point the next bus wasn't for another 30 minutes and he would have missed the sunrise. So he just wanted to go back to sleep at that point. So it ends up just being Kendall and I going for this morning hike and koala spotting. We see a lot of koalas. This time I was so trained and so prepared. I knew the trees, I knew the distance up of the ground that they would be. I was ready to find them hidden throughout the trees. We had the best time, so of course we brought David back later that day so he could also see some koalas. After we go on this hike for the second time that day, I bring David and Kendall over to where I thought I went and saw the rock wallabies the first time with Joe, but I was only like 70% confident in that, and I remember hearing a bus driver that day say to another person on the bus that this is where you see the rock wallabies. I get off the bus and I quickly realized that this is a completely different spot to where Joe and I went. But I thought we might as well check it out. I mean, the convenience store right around the corner from the bus stop literally sells rock wallaby food, so we have to be in the right area. We end up walking down this long rocky path, which I'm thinking is a great sign because rock wallabies love their rocks. But no, not at all. This rocky bit was so rocky, and these rock wallabies clearly didn't like humans like the other ones did, because they were hiding underneath these tiny and big rocks, hidden within the cracks, deep up in the trees, nowhere to be seen. So once again, determined to have Kendall and David live out their Aussie summer and feed rock wallabies, I plan to bring them back the next day before our ferry back to Townsville, to the actual right spot this time. That time we would have carrots, something I know the rock wallabies love. We didn't go that night because it was starting to get dark, we were getting hungry, and we wanted to try this Thai restaurant. So we venture off to go try and find the sign that we saw the day prior. After walking around a residential neighborhood for about 10 or so minutes, we finally find the restaurant hidden behind a few houses. We saw a sign saying that it was either fully booked or sold out for the night. I can't remember exactly the specific wording, but it was something along those lines. Nonetheless, we walk in. At every table, we're seeing reserved signs. All right, interesting. Maybe it's from the night prior. Maybe they haven't set up for the night yet. I don't know. But we keep poking our head around, trying to find some sort of employee. At this point, we're so being those tourists right now. Clearly the place isn't open, and we just need to know if we're able to eat or not later in the day. I mean, there was no website or anything. We had no information besides this one sign we saw. Finally, we scare some poor guy who was probably the owner or the chef, I don't know, but he tells us that they're fully booked and we need to make sure to call ahead of time to get a table a few days in advance. Apparently it's one of those if you know local restaurants that's hard to get a table at, and we clearly are not locals and in the know. At this point, we're starting to get a bit hungry and we don't necessarily want to eat at the hostel, but we're willing to if it comes down to it. So we try looking online, but nothing's open, nothing's close. and nothing really for me to eat at, being the damn vegan I am. So we head back to the hostel, and on the walk back to the hostel, we see an Indian food truck that just finished setting up for the night. We go up, we read the menu, unreal options for all of us. Obviously, we get some food from them. There were these tables set up right next to the food truck with some fairy lights strung up around, a super cute setup overlooking the beach. I sit down, get a table once my food is ready, while Kendall and David are still waiting. I got curry with a side of papadons. Within 2 seconds of me sitting down, a giant burst of wind hits me, and my papadons. Bye-bye papadons. Gone with the wind, literally. Within 2 seconds of me sitting down, a giant burst of wind hits me, and my papadons. Bye-bye papadons. Gone with the wind for real. Kendall and David eventually got their food, and we enjoyed a cute little dinner by the water. Like I said, it was pretty windy, and it's getting dark, it's getting chilly. None of us were that prepared for sitting outside this long, so we head back to the hostel as soon as possible. Jury, I'll be honest with you, I may have lost the plot a little bit here, but are you still following? Has this just become a yap court case? I don't know, I'm not sure. I guess it's up to you now, jury, to decide. Am I stretching all of these stories to somehow fit under one lesson for the sake of this thrills and spills? Should I have gone back there with David and Kendall after having a not so pleasant time the first time I was there with Joe? Could all of this have been resolved if I had a larger variety of clothes with me? Could this all have happened anywhere and everywhere while backpacking? I can't hear what y'all are saying, but if we're sharing views here, I might as well add my 2 cents. Because I do agree with the fact that most of these mishaps could have been solved if I had more clothes packed. Getting drenched on the ferry ride over to the island happens. But you know what? More clothes would have helped me not feel the need to sit there in my soaking wet clothes just for the sake of not getting more clothes dirty. Wearing pants while on the electric bike could have helped avoid the giant cut I got from crashing the bike. But that can also be a whole other lesson in itself. Maybe I shouldn't have gaslit myself into thinking that I could ride it with no prior experience or talk through. Ants infesting our backpack filled with all of our clothes. Maybe if we had another bag, maybe they would have only gone for one of the bags and we'd still have some ant-free clothes. Staying out so late in the day with Kendall and David that it started to get cold and chilly could have definitely been avoided by always carrying a light jacket around with us, especially when you're having an impromptu day of exploring. This Thrills and Spills, I will admit, has a lot of overlap with my first Thrills and Spills, as it all boils down to planning. When you're backpacking, traveling, or living your best nomad life, you have to plan to be prepared for anything, to some extent at least. But now I'm not saying having the right clothes will solve all of your problems. I do feel like Carrie Bradshaw enough. While typing out this story, I don't need to say that shoes solve everything. But in certain situations, like the ones I've discussed today, being prepared with the right wardrobe can solve a lot. I mean, for all of you who listened to my New Zealand episode with Joe, did you all catch the part where Joe and I both said the hike would have been a lot easier if we had the right size shoe? Also, in New Zealand, I practically bought a whole new wardrobe because it was so cold there. I wasn't prepared. I love my Aussie wardrobe that I created for myself, but it was definitely not backpacker appropriate for all of my adventures. However, I have discovered that I'm the type of traveler that thoroughly enjoys going out and shopping in new countries and cities that I visit. I love adding flares of that local style into my personal style. And I did discover that the first time I went to Australia, when I bought a whole new wardrobe and left all of the clothes I brought from the States in Australia so I could bring back all of my new Australian clothes. And I was only there for 30 days. So honestly, I'm kind of 50-50 on this case. As much as I support not packing any clothes, because I'm gonna end up buying a whole new wardrobe anyways, it's always good to be prepared and have the essentials with you at any and all times. Guajuri, I think that concludes this court case. Please let us know your thoughts. I'm so curious. Are you the type of packer who packs nothing? Or do you pack everything and anything you'll ever need for every type of situation you potentially can run into? I'm curious. Thank you so much for listening to this week's Thrills and Spills, and I really do hope y'all are enjoying this shorter format of a quicker story time. Don't worry, co-host Louise and I will be back in action very soon. We've been posting all of these episodes so out of order, so I don't even know what's coming next, but I just know it'll be a good one, and we will see you then with all of your travel needs. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, Spotify, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, all the places. We're there at Guess for a Podcast. See you very soon. Bye. Hopefully that was good enough. Hopefully one of the two were good enough. Okay, hopefully all these were good and that it wasn't too long. Love you, bye.